With players coming to Major League Baseball from hundreds of different countries nowadays, it's hard to keep track of where every player is from. After thinking about that, I realized that I don't even know what states most American-born players are from. In today's video, I'm going to highlight the best active MLB player from every state. For my picks, I'm going to go off who I think is the best player right now, not necessarily who had the best 2023 season because some players dealt with injuries. I'm also only including active MLB players, so a player has to be either under contract with an MLB team or be a free agent after playing for an MLB team in 2023 while looking to continue playing. Finally, I'm also going off of where players were born, not where they grew up. Now that I've laid out the qualifications, let's get into my picks. Starting off with Alabama, I'm going with Gunnar Henderson. There were 17 MLB players born in Alabama who played in 2023, but none quite as good as Henderson. He's only 22 years old and put up the 9th most B-WAR of anyone in 2023. He'll definitely be one of the best players in baseball for years to come. The next best player from Alabama is probably Braxton Garrett, so this was an easy choice. With there being no active MLB players from Alaska, let's go to Arizona, and my pick is Cody Bellinger. While there are 28 active pros born in Arizona, none of them had remotely solid 2023 seasons besides Kyle Bradish and Cody Bellinger. I chose Bellinger over Bradish because Bellinger has had several solid seasons in the majors, whereas this was Bradish's first solid year. I also just think Bellinger is the better player right now, although it is difficult to compare an outfielder to a pitcher. Moving on to Arkansas, I'm taking Jacob Junis. There are only 6 current MLB players from Arkansas, and Drew Smyly is the only one besides Junis who is remotely decent. Junis has put up back-to-back seasons with sub-4 FIPS and has been a pretty reliable arm for the Giants. He's not the best pitcher in the league by any means, but I would definitely say he's the best current player from Arkansas. Up next, we have California, and I'm going with Aaron Judge. To no surprise, California has produced 230 active MLB players, as it's the most populated state by a lot. While there are other superstars like Freddie Freeman and Nolan Arenado from the state, Judge is arguably the second or third best player in baseball right now. He's posted 21 B-WAR since 2021, which is second to only Shohei Ohtani. As much as I love Freddie Freeman, Judge is the better player. Now let's go to Colorado, and I'm picking Kevin Gausman. Colorado has produced 11 active MLB players, most notably the Rogers twins, Marco Gonzalez, and Kevin Gausman. Needless to say, this one was a pretty easy choice. Gausman is one of the best pitchers in MLB right now. He's finished top 10 in AL Cy Young voting each of the past 3 seasons and hasn't missed a single start. He's by far Colorado's best active pro. Moving on to Connecticut, I'm taking George Springer. There are currently 8 active MLB players from Connecticut, and the only notable ones are Scott Barlow, Aaron Savali, and George Springer. While Springer had a down 2023 season, I don't think anyone would say he's not the best out of the 3 players that I just mentioned. Springer is usually good for 25 home runs and great defense every season, as he's one of the best leadoff hitters in MLB history. Next we have Delaware, and I'm going with Paul Goldschmidt. Delaware has produced 5 active MLB players, with Goldie being by a landslide the best player. In his 13-year career, he's posted an OPS above 800 in every single season. He's been one of the most consistent hitters in baseball since he debuted in 2011, and might honestly be a sleeper Hall of Fame candidate one day. The next best player from Delaware is probably Zach Geloff, who's only played 70 career games, so Goldschmidt is definitely the best from the state. Now let's go to Florida, and I'm picking Kyle Tucker. There are currently 108 active MLB players who are born in Florida. This was by far the toughest decision I've had to make so far. Notable players from the state include Bo Bichette, Pete Alonso, Trey Turner, Jacob deGrom, Manny Machado, and Kyle Tucker. I opted to go with Tucker because he's the only player on the list to put up 5 B-WAR in each of the last 3 seasons. He's easily one of the most underrated superstars in all of baseball. Moving on to Georgia, I'm taking Matt Olson. Georgia has produced 55 active MLB players, with Dylan Cease, Dansby Swanson, Zach Wheeler, and Matt Olson being the most notable ones. I was really close to taking Zach Wheeler, but I went with Matt Olson instead because I think he's the better player right now. Again, it's very hard to compare a starting pitcher to a first baseman, but Olson just put up 7.4 B-WAR in 2023 and has hit 127 home runs since 2021. Wheeler is awesome, but I just have to go with Olson here. Up next, we have Hawaii, and I'm going with Kirby Yates. There are currently 5 active MLB players from Hawaii, with Yates and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa being the most notable. I picked Yates here because he was pretty good in 2023, while IKF put up 0 B-WAR and was pretty bad overall. Nothing too crazy here, just think Yates is a better player. Now let's go to Idaho, and I'm picking Michael Stefanik, as he's the only active MLB player who was born in Idaho. Stefanik's story is pretty awesome. After going undrafted in 2018, he sent a homemade highlight reel to all 30 MLB teams hoping to convince a team to give him a chance. The Angels then signed him to be a fill-in player in case injuries happen and they needed an extra player. Injuries did end up happening, which led to Stefanik getting a chance and making the most of it. He hit .319 in 4 years in the minors before getting caught up to the Angels in 2022. He's only posted an OPS of .624 in the majors, but he's technically the best player from Idaho. Moving on to Illinois, I'm taking Bobby Miller. Illinois has produced 39 active MLB players, but none are even close to as good as Bobby Miller is. The next few players that I would rank under Miller are Reed Detmers and Alec Thomas. For having this many active MLB players, I figured there would have been at least one All-Star from Illinois. Regardless, Bobby Miller is pretty good already and will be a front-of-the-line starting pitcher for the Dodgers for many years to come. Next up, we have Indiana, and I'm going with Kevin Kiermaier. There are currently 15 active MLB players from Indiana, but again, Kiermaier was the obvious choice for me here. While not even playing full-time in 2023, he posted 3.9 BWAR and won a Gold Glove award. Dre Jameson and Kyle Gibson are the next best players from Indiana, so Kiermaier is definitely the best player here. Moving on to Iowa, I'm taking Michael Wacha. Iowa has produced 8 active MLB players, with the best 2 being Mitch Keller and Michael Wacha. This one could have gone either way, as they're both quality starting pitchers. I went with Wacha over Keller simply because he's been an above-average pitcher for a longer time than Keller, as I couldn't choose both of them. They both posted FIPS of around 4 for the past 2 seasons and have super similar stats. Next up, we have Kansas, and I'm going with John Means. There are currently 7 active MLB players from Kansas, and none of them are close to as good as John Means is. While Means has barely pitched over the last 2 seasons due to Tommy John surgery, he still was good in his small sample size. His 2021 season was great too, as he threw a no-hitter and made the All-Star team. Now let's go to Kentucky, and I'm picking Will Smith, the catcher, not the relief pitcher. Kentucky has produced 9 active MLB players, most notably Walker Buehler and his catcher Will Smith. While I definitely could have gone with Buehler here, Smith has been a top 5 catcher in baseball each of the past 3 seasons. His bat is fantastic and his defense has improved over time. I hope Buehler comes back strong from Tommy John surgery in 2024, but I have to go with Smith here. Moving on to Louisiana, I'm going with Aaron Nola. There are currently 14 active MLB players from Louisiana, with none of them being close to as good as Nola. Wade Miley and Seth Lugo are 2 solid pitchers, but Nola has been arguably the most consistent elite pitcher in baseball over the past 5 seasons. He hasn't missed a single start in this time span and has been excellent for the Phillies. He's by far the best player from Louisiana. With there being no active MLB players born in Maine, up next we have Maryland, and I'm going with Shane McClanahan. Maryland has produced 14 active MLB players, with Brian Reynolds and Josh Hader being other notable players. I picked McClanahan here because he's been an all-star the past 2 seasons and would have easily finished top 3 in AL Cy Young voting if he never got hurt this season. Reynolds and Hader are both great, but neither are better than McClanahan. Now let's go to Massachusetts, and I'm picking Alex Cobb. There are currently 9 active MLB players who were born in Massachusetts, with Mike Yastrzemski and Alex Cobb being the only notable ones. Cobb just made the All-Star team for the first time in his career in 2023, while Yaz has been just an average hitter throughout his career. Moving on to Michigan, I'm taking Jake Cronenworth. Michigan has produced 15 active MLB players, with Hunter Brown being the only notable player besides Cronenworth. Neither player had great 2023 seasons by any means, as Brown posted a measly 0.1 BWAR, while Cronenworth posted 1 BWAR. Cronenworth is only a season out from posting 4 BWAR and was better in 2023, so I have to pick him for Michigan. Next up, we have Minnesota, and I'm going with Matt Wallner. There are currently 16 active MLB players from Minnesota. For having this many big league players, Minnesota hasn't produced too many solid players. The next best players besides Wallner include AJ Puck, Caleb Thielbar, and Brad Hand. Wallner's pretty underrated, as he posted 2.2 BWAR with an OPS of 877 and only 213 bats during his rookie season in 2023. He's not a superstar at all, but definitely is the best active player from the state. Now let's go to Mississippi, and I'm picking Justin Steele. Mississippi has produced 11 active MLB players, with Brandon Woodruff and Steele being by far the best players. While Woodruff has had a better career so far, Steele was one of the best pitchers in the National League in 2023, as he had a 3 ERA and accumulated 3.8 BWAR in 173 innings. While Woodruff is so good when healthy, I just think Steele is the better pitcher right now. This one was honestly a toss-up for me and could have gone either way. Moving on to Missouri, I'm taking Devin Williams. There are currently 16 active MLB players from Missouri, with Max Scherzer and Devin Williams being the best of them. While Scherzer has been one of the best pitchers over the past decade, Williams has been the best relief pitcher since he debuted in 2020. He has a career ERA of 1.89 and posted an ERA of 1.53 this season. He's better than Scherzer right now by a lot in my opinion. With there being no active MLB players from Montana, up next we have Nebraska, and I'm going with Alec Bohm. Nebraska has produced 5 active MLB players, with Bohm being the best by far. The next best player is Jake Diekman, so there wasn't too much competition here. Bohm isn't a superstar by any means, but he did post an OPS of 765 this season, despite struggling defensively at times. He's pretty solid overall. Now let's go to Nevada, and I'm picking Bryce Harper. There are currently 13 active MLB players who are born in Nevada, and most of them are pretty solid. Joey Gallo, Chris Bryant, Tommy Pham, Bryson Stott, and Paul Sewald are all from the state, but of course none of them are even close to being on Harper's level. He's still one of the best hitters in baseball and will be in the Hall of Fame one day for sure. This state has produced some awesome players for only having 13 active pros. Moving on to New Hampshire, I'm taking Ian Hamilton. New Hampshire has only produced 2 active MLB players, being Jared Triolo and Ian Hamilton. Both of these players are pretty underrated, but neither of them have played in the league for a while. Hamilton has posted a 3.1 ERA in 72 career innings, while Triolo has posted a 785 OPS and 181 career at-bats. This one could have gone either way, but I think Hamilton has just been better in my opinion. Next up we have New Jersey, and I'm going with Mike Trout. There are currently 23 active MLB players from New Jersey, with Trout and Zach Gallen being being the only elite players. While Trout has been injury prone over the past few years, he's still a top 5 hitter in baseball. No disrespect to Gallen, as he's an awesome pitcher, but it's Mike Trout we're talking about here. He's still ridiculous. Now let's go to New Mexico, and I'm picking Alex Bregman. New Mexico has only produced 4 MLB players, being Chase Silseth, Trevor Rogers, Mitch Garver, and Alex Bregman. Garver had a pretty good 2023 campaign, but Bregman is still the better player. He just put up a 4.9 B-WAR season in 2023 while having an OPS of 804. I think a lot of people don't realize how good he still is. Moving on to New York, I'm taking George Kirby. While there are currently 49 active MLB players from there, none of them are considered superstars at all. Outside of Kirby, there are some good players like Jonah Heim, Sean Murphy, and Marcus Stroman, but no franchise-altering players. I chose Kirby because he's been one of the best starting pitchers in baseball since he debuted in 2022 and hasn't missed a single start yet. His career FIP is 3.2, which is fantastic for a 2-year professional. Up next, we have North Carolina, and I'm going with Corey Seager. North Carolina has produced 31 active MLB players, but none of them are anywhere close to Seager's level of talent. Cedric Mullins and Jeffrey Springs are both good players, but Seager is a top 5 hitter in baseball right now. He just finished second in AL MVP voting and led the Rangers to their first ever World Series title. He's by far North Carolina's best active player. Now let's go to North Dakota, and I'm picking Matt Strahm. There are currently only 2 active MLB players who are born in North Dakota, being Eric Swanson and Matt Strahm. Both of these players are incredibly similar, as they're both solid relief pitchers. Strahm posted a 3.2 FIP in 2023, while Swanson's FIP was 3.5. I went with Strahm because he was great for the Phillies in this year's playoffs, and I just think he's better overall. Moving on to Ohio, I'm taking Spencer Strider. Ohio has produced 23 active MLB players, with Chris Bassett and Kyle Schwarber being the most notable after Strider. This was an easy decision for me, as Strider is no doubt a top 5 pitcher in baseball right now. He struck out 281 batters this season while posting a FIP of 2.85. There's literally no debating this one. Next up, we have Oklahoma, and I'm going with JT Realmuto. There are currently 17 active MLB players from Oklahoma, with John Gray being the only other All-Star. While Gray has been super solid since leaving Colorado, Realmuto has been a top 5 catcher in baseball for about 5 seasons and hasn't slowed down much at all. He's still super solid offensively and is one of the best catchers in the league at throwing runners out. Now let's go to Oregon, and I'm picking Adley Rutschman. Oregon has produced 10 active MLB players, with Rutschman being the only current All-Star. While he only has 2 seasons under his belt, he might be the best catcher in baseball already. He made the 2023 MLB All-First team this year and led the Orioles to their first division title in almost a decade. There's not much more to say about Adley other than he's just awesome. Moving on to Pennsylvania, I'm taking Christian Walker. There are currently 21 active MLB players from Pennsylvania, with none of them being particularly elite. David Bednar and Chas McCormick are the next best players from the state, and I think Walker's better than both of them. He's the best defensive first baseman in all of baseball and has posted back-to-back 30 home run seasons. He's very good and doesn't get enough credit for how solid he is. Up next, we have Rhode Island, and I'm going with Trevor Kelly. Rhode Island has produced only 2 active MLB players, being Thomas Pannone and Trevor Kelly. Both of these players barely pitched in MLB in 2023. Pannone gave up 2 earned runs in 2 2/3 innings this season, while Kelly gave up 10 earned runs in 15 1/3 innings. By default, Kelly has to be the best player out of Rhode Island. Now let's go to South Carolina, and I'm picking Jordan Montgomery. There are currently 16 active MLB players who are born in South Carolina, with Montgomery being by far the best. Monty had an awesome 2023 season with both the Cardinals and the Rangers, posting a 3.2 ERA in almost 200 innings while pitching fantastic in the playoffs. The next best player from the state is Whit Merrifield, so it was an easy decision for me on this one. With there being no active MLB players born in South Dakota, let's move on to Tennessee, where I'm taking Mookie Betts. Tennessee has produced 24 active MLB players, with Sonny Gray and Austin Riley being the next best players from the state outside of Mookie. Mookie has finished top 5 in NL MVP voting in 3 of the last 4 seasons, and he's a top 5 player in baseball. I'm not even going to say much more on this one. He's simply incredible and is far better than Gray and Riley. Next up, we have Texas, and I'm going with Bobby Witt Jr. While there's currently a whopping 101 active MLB players from Texas, there aren't too many great players from there. Outside of Witt Jr., they have Nathan Eovaldi, Clayton Kershaw, and Josh Young. Other than that, the majority of the players are fringe MLB players or players that used to be good, like Trevor Story and Noah Syndergaard. Bobby Witt Jr. is one of baseball's fastest rising stars. He just posted a 30 home run, 30 stolen base season at 23 years old. He's definitely the best player from Texas. Now let's go to Utah, and I'm picking Tanner Banks. Utah has produced only 2 active MLB players, being Joe Barlow and Tanner Banks. Barlow posted a 4.66 ERA in 9 2/3 innings in 2023, while Banks posted a 4.43 ERA in 61 innings. They're both pretty similar pitchers, so I just picked Banks because he was solid for a longer amount of time and also had a lower FIP this season. With there being no active MLB players from Vermont, let's move on to Virginia, where I'm taking Justin Verlander. There are currently 28 active MLB players from Virginia, and 40-year-old Justin Verlander is still the state's best. He posted a 3.22 ERA this season and won the AL Cy Young Award in 2022. The next best player from the state right now is Nathaniel Lowe, so this was a fairly easy decision for me to make. Up next, we have Washington, and I'm going with Corbin Carroll. Washington has produced 19 active MLB players, with Blake Snell and Carroll being by far the best. This one could have gone either way, but I went with Carroll because the man had an OPS of 868 while stealing 54 bases in his rookie season. I also think he'll be able to sustain his success for a lot longer than Snell. No disrespect to the 2023 NL Cy Young winner, but I'm taking Carroll 10 times out of 10. Now let's go to West Virginia, and I'm picking Michael Grove, as he's the only only active MLB player who was born there. In 2 seasons for the Dodgers, Grove's thrown 98 in the 3rd innings where he's posted a 4.6 FIP. He's not the best pitcher by any means, but he's given the Dodgers some decent innings at times when they needed it the most. Moving on to Wisconsin, I'm taking Dalton Varsho. There are currently 12 active MLB players from Wisconsin, and none of them are really considered stars. Outside of Varsho, Pete Fairbanks and Jared Kelenic are the next best players from the state. While Varsho had a down year in 2023, he still posted 3.9 BWAR because of how good he is defensively. As much as I like Fairbanks, Varsho is the better player. Lastly, we have Wyoming, and I'm going with Brandon Nimmo, as he's the only active MLB player who was born there. If you've watched my videos before, you know that I'm a big fan of Nimmo. He's one of the most underrated stars in all baseball. He's had an OPS of 800 plus in 4 straight seasons and somehow has never made an all-star team. He's a great representative for a state that has only produced 1 active pro. That's gonna do it for the video today. I had a lot of fun researching what players are from certain states, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you did enjoy, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content. Make sure to leave a comment down below if you disagreed with any of my picks, and follow me on my other social platforms. Links are in the description. Hope to see you in the next video.